And the hack there is that studies show if you offer people 2 appointment times,
Yes.
they're invariably going to pick one.
Yes.
A lot of people are afraid to get that no, but when you're, and that comes from confidence, right? It all comes full circle here, because if you're making these calls every day and you got someone that's being so difficult and they just won't work with you, maybe you're better off finding somebody else. The challenge for agents is they don't work with enough people. They don't have enough people on their prospect sheet to say, you know what, I'm good not working with this person because I got 40 other people I'm trying to list their house with.
No, they're
now.
like, I'll be over in 5 minutes. They come over with commission breath and they're like, whoa, commission breath.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. Well said.
Yeah.
It's that time. Welcome to Roadmap, how to take 3 listings a week until you're ready for more. Each week, we interview a great agent who's consistently taking several listings each month, and we have an exciting guest today. We encourage you to take notes and apply as much of their knowledge as quickly as you can, and then use the copycat principle.
Copycat principle.
That's it. Let me introduce my co-host from beautiful Camp Dennison, Ohio, Sarah Close. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Ren. Thanks for having me today. Happy to be here.
Love having Sarah on here as a co-host. She owns several Keller Williams offices in Cincinnati, 500 or 600 agents, and you have a team that sells a lot of real estate. And the goal for sales this year is?
We're hoping for 250. So
250, and she is dialing for dollars, expireds for sale by owners, past clients fear.
It never changes.
Knocking them dead in greater Cincinnati, Ohio, and Kentucky and Indiana, all that fun stuff.
All that good stuff.
Good. I want to introduce our guest today from greater Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Mr. Tom Toole. Welcome, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
What's up, Brand? Hey, Sarah. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here.
Glad you're here.
I'm looking forward to providing some value. Hopefully the people watching and listening can pick up a couple things and implement them in their business.
Awesome.
Good.
Awesome.
Good. We're glad you're here.
Well, let's just jump right into it. Tom, tell us a little bit about you and your foray into the real estate world. And you were born and got your license, and then what happened?
Yeah, so I got licensed when I was 19. I sold a couple homes over the summer when I was home from college. I was a business school student. Didn't want to do journal entries and financial statements the rest of my life. So once I was able to, see what it's like helping people in the day-to-day and being able to work with folks in these big decisions that they usually have no idea what's happening with them and they have no idea what's going on, that was really appealing to me. So, fast forward literally 20 plus years later, last year our team sold 446 properties.
Awesome.
$165 million in volume. And the reason we even have a team, it's probably why you guys wanted to have me on, is in 2008 when the market crashed, all my business was coming from my sphere, people I knew, and they weren't really transacting them because of the financial climate. And I made the decision to go out and bring in listings, find people that were really motivated. And I was reading a book and it said the best places to get your business from, the first was your sphere. And I'm like, all right, great. I've already done that. Second was expired listings. Third was for sale by owners, because the people were motivated, right? Expireds, they sign a contract with an agent. So they believe in realtors. They let people come through their home, which is a total pain in the butt. They had open houses. They did all the things except pick the right agent. So that tells me there's some motivation there. And for sale by owners, a little different, but they're literally raising their hand saying, hey, I want to go sell my house. I'm just not sure if an agent's the right move for me. So when I heard that, I put the book down and I started prospecting expires and for sale by owners. And that literally has driven our business, being a call first company, ever since that started.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Wow.
So talk to us about your lead generation. What does that look like in your team? And, how are you getting after those targets?
Sure. So, there's a couple ways we do that. I was an individual agent in production. I was doing 90 homes a year for 10 years straight. And these were pretty much all listings up until jumping out of production last year as our team grew. So my day-to-day was expired listings, people that were hot and had some motivation, leveraging the software and technology to make as many contacts as I could, because whoever talks to the most people, they go on the most appointments and they sell the most houses. It's not rocket science here. That's what I love about real estate. It's all about the people that have the will to win and have the mindset to do it every day. Because there's going to be some days when you don't feel like making calls. It happens to everybody. it's when you push through anyway and let that discipline carry you when you're not that motivated. So for me, and I got hooked up with Vulcan7, obviously, through our coaching organization. They had recommended it that I work with Tom Ferry and his coaches there. And I remember vividly the first time I even was aware of the software. My coach says to me, "You're not using a dialer? Are you kidding me?" And hung up the phone on me. And I was like, "Man, I'm an idiot. I should cause I'm manually dialing all these people." And I was still taking listings. That wasn't the problem, but it's an efficiency question, right? I mean, you manually dial someone and don't have and look up the phone number and do all that stuff. It's taking you 8-10 minutes to actually get on a call. That's just one call, right? That's not all of them. So by utilizing software and data and all the different things that are out there, and being able to talk to 15, 20 people in 2 hours and make 100 to 150 dials, I mean, that's where you can really scale a business. So that's really what lead generation looks like at our team. Is we're leveraging software, we're creating our call lists in advance, we're coming in super prepared because there's always a prime time to make phone calls. You guys all know this, right? And we want to be ready to execute during that time to make it as profitable and as productive as possible. So it's really about prep, software, phone skills, scripting, role play, all the stuff you've probably heard before that most people just never want to commit to doing.
Yeah, makes sense. Talk to me about prep. When you guys think about getting your calling list together, what does the warm up look like before you all jump on the phone?
So every day our team has an 8:45 a.m. role play call, and that's kind of like the warm up, like shake the rust off a little bit. And not everyone goes on the call, but it's you get to hear somebody, you find out what's going on, and that helps it kind of scale a little bit. The prep though should start earlier than that. In my view, that you should be going into your CRM or whatever you're using, whether it's Vulcan7 or a lot of people have another CRM on top of that. Go in and create your call sheet so it's already done and ready to go, because you don't want to spend 20-30 minutes getting ready to work. You want to be able to go in during that high call pickup time, because the goal is to get people on the phone, not just make a ton of dials. You want to get people on the phone and set appointments. And a lot of realtors get lost in that. They talk about all the stuff they're doing except selling houses and going on appointments, which is the objective here. So I'd have that call sheet prepped either very early in the morning or the night before. So I literally could walk in my office, open my laptop up, put on my AirPods, and be on the dialer within a couple minutes versus, oh, well, who am I going to call today? Oh, that person, I talked to them, but I didn't log it in the CRM. So just having that stuff ready to go in the morning and not taking any appointments in the morning. This to me is as critical as anything else, because when you're in this zone of trying to set appointments and trying to be a high volume agent, meaning you're listing a lot of homes, you're selling a lot of homes, you're only going to have a finite amount of time to make these lead generation and prospecting calls. And too many agents have lost sight of this. So if you were looking for me when I was in production, I'd be at my stand-up desk, sitting on a dialer, literally just calling through people until I got appointments. And my goal was 2 appointments a day, 2 listing appointments a day. That was it. And if I did that, I knew I'd be in good shape, because 71% of the time the appointment would show up or happen. And 72% of the time I'd walk out of there with a signed listing contract. So my business was predictable because I put the work in and I knew my numbers. And you can't let anything get in the way of that, because if you're dealing with a client or an agent calling you or something else, that's taking your time away from building your pipeline, which is the most important thing in any sales business. So
I'm glad you said that. So many people they'll call in the morning and they'll set an appointment at 9:30 in the morning for the next day. And hello, well, that's the time they want it. Well, who's in charge? Right. I mean, if you can all morning look for a business and meet with people in the afternoon. It works. You can do it 99% of the time. So this idea that you're going to have a day where you're not going to make lead generate doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't time block and put stuff in their calendar. They're just kind of freewheeling it. And they don't have a schedule or a discipline. So I couldn't agree with you more, Ren. And where I'll take that one step further is, of course, do you sometimes you deviate from that once in a while? Yeah, but here's where I would deviate.
Once in a while, once in a rare situation where you've gone through all the other times and there's just no way, and they're going to list with you, then maybe.
Well, let me give you the situation. It's got to be, hey, unfortunately, my parents passed away and I live out of state. and I'm flying in, and I'm only going to be in town from 9 to 11 on Wednesday, and then my flight's at 12 o'clock, and I got to be at the airport.
Exactly.
So,
And the only
like,
other one I had was a similar one like that. They go, well, we go to work at 11 a.m. and I work all evening, and where I wake up at 8 a.m. so I can meet with you at 10 a.m. And finally, after I'm like, all right. And then, but not many cases, not many cases. Otherwise, you just don't, you're not good at setting the appointments. Because if you go round and round, somebody will give you, I mean, if you have to go to see the dentist, you're going to go at 2:30, 2:30, you're going to go at 2:30. It's not going to be 6 at night. They get, everybody has that flexibility.
Well, and the hack there is that studies show if you offer people 2 appointment times, they're invariably going to pick one. A lot of people are afraid to get that no, but when you're, and that comes from confidence, right? It all comes full circle here, because if you're making these calls every day and you got someone that's being so difficult and they just won't work with you, maybe you're better off finding somebody else. The challenge for agents is they don't work with enough people. They don't have enough people on their prospect sheet to say, you know what? I'm good not working with this person because I got 40 other people I'm trying to list their house with.
No, they're like, I'll be over in 5 minutes. They come over with commission breath and they're like, whoa, commission breath.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Well said.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're preparing your call list ahead of time. Do you have a specific criteria that you use or hierarchy that you use to put together that list for the morning?
The hottest people you are closest to the appointment with should get the call first, right? Because we know usually you don't get the appointment on the first call. It's call number 7. Call number 15. That's where the conversion happens. So I always look at who am I closest to getting an appointment with, then any new leads that need a touch. And you could interchange those. I'd be good with either of those some days. It just depends on how many's on the list. But closest to an appointment, then the people that are brand new, that's like 1A and 1B. Then your normal follow-ups. And then I'd put your past clients in there too, because that's got to be a component of your daily lead gen no matter what. And then whatever older leads are in there that may not have as much heat as some of the others. But it's, and the goal has to be around an action or an activity and an objective, meaning like the activity should be how many dials you're going to make or how many conversations you're going to have. Because you can control that pretty much 100% of the time. The objective is the appointments. You can influence the objective. You can't just walk in the door and say, hey, Ryan, hey, Sarah, I'm going to set 2 appointments today. Like you got to actually do the work and do the activity to get to the objective.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you'd mentioned that your objective would be 2 calls a day, or I'm sorry, 2 listing appointments a day, 2 appointments set, and that you're reaching 15 to 20 within that 2-hour time frame. So how do you work? Do you go like objective first and then action, then, or how do you win the morning?
Always action. Yeah, always action. Because I mean, you can't, even the objective, you can't just decide. I mean, you might not have it. And look, appointments come in bunches, right? I mean, sometimes you don't get any for a couple of days, then you set like 3 out of nowhere. And that's just, it's what happens when you're working numbers. So it's always activity based, because nobody can stop you from doing that except yourself. And that's like the thing, Ren, you talked about, like scheduling an appointment in that time block, that's going to stop you. You're stopping yourself at that point. And that's just one example. Or you just don't get up early enough, or you don't do the prep beforehand. So it's always activity based 100% of the time, because when you focus on what you can control, then the objectives and the results come after.
So you'll have a call, a 2-way conversation goal is how you'll start the morning. Exactly.
Okay, and you got to know your numbers, right? You got to track and measure, because if you don't track and measure, then you have no idea what you're trying to hit. So I know that when I was heavy in production, every like 12 people I talked to, I'd be setting an appointment. So I mean, and basically, if I went on the appointment, I had a 1.2 to 1 ratio, meaning every 1.2 appointments I went on, I'd sell a house. So if I can get in the door, I mean, there's a high probability that's happening, and it's about knowing your numbers. So, I mean, some people don't get excited for appointments. They get nervous. I'm getting jacked up because I know I got basically a 0.75% close, or 3/4 close rate, roughly, just a little less than that. I'm walking in the door. I'm selling a house today. Let's go. But if you don't know that, you're not going to have that confidence walking in, and you're just kind of guessing. It's like watching the Super Bowl and not knowing what the score is. You have no idea what's going on.
Right. No, it makes a lot of sense. So, you've been at this a little while. You started off as a, not even drinking age, that's a long haul on this. How did you, not everybody has that same confidence that you're referring to, and that like, just, kind of killer, I got this swagger. How do you get there? If it's something that, how do we go from from 0 to I got this?
Well,
Mindset.
it's a great question. And you got to start with, like small activities, right? You can't expect to I'm going to go from 0 to selling 100 homes a year, because that's not going to happen. Everyone looks at these people that are successful and they're like, where did that person come from? They don't see literally like the 20 years of work that it took to get there. So right now I'm a very different version of myself than I was even when I started doing this in 2008, where I really made that commitment to outbound calls to take listings, because that's what we're talking about here, right? So every day it's just getting a little bit better. Role playing goes a long way. If you can just get the script down and not have to look at a piece of paper, even though you probably should have your scripts in front of you when you're doing this, it makes it easier. If you can get it down and internalize it, then you're able to add inflection, be a little more confident. And then you got to look for those small wins along the way. It might not be, I'm going to make 150 calls the first day. It could be, hey, I'm going to make 50 and I'm hoping I can get 10 people on the phone. And if I can get 10 people, then maybe tomorrow I'll go for 11. And then in 3 weeks, I'll go for 15. It's small progress over time. And, part of the confidence thing too is just, taking care of yourself, right? Like having some sort of like physical, like health and vitality routine, like working out in the morning or doing something to get your head straight. And along with that role play call we talked about, so imagine you get up, you have a killer workout, you got everything prepped, you got all your call sheets ready, and then you did a role play call and you're warmed up. Just those 3 things alone, you're going to be way more confident than if you did none of those and try to start making calls.
Yeah, makes a lot of
sense.
sense.
So the mindset piece, exercise, the role play warm up, and the whole thing's a recipe, isn't it? Isn't it just a well-tuned recipe? It's a formula. So did you ever shadow people to watch them and then copy them? Or did you just hear about it on stage and different things and put it all together?
I am one of the most coachable people you're going to meet. And this comes from my coaches that I work with, not me. I mean, they've called me like Forrest Gump. They're like, go run. And I just go run through the wall. But it's like, and I mean this seriously, because you know what? Success leaves clues. And if there's these people that are doing this sort of stuff, literally you had the copycat sort of thing. I call it R&D, research and duplicate, right? Or rip off and duplicate. And it's the same thing, right? And the point is that this business is not filled with people that are innovating constantly. There's some innovation that goes on, but 2/3 of the time, the stuff that's worked for a long time still works, and people just aren't consistent with their action. And that's the biggest difference.
And some of your friends are heavy hitters. You were talking about Carolyn Young. So, so you learn from each other.
For sure. I mean, Carolyn Young and I, we would we would text back and forth and just, like, we never, it was a casual thing, but it's like, hey, try this objection handler, try that. And there was a point where it was, I think, like a 4 or 5 month period a few years ago. And it just, like, little things, like she had a script that said when someone was talking about using another agent, and she said, hey, I think you're making a mistake. And I'm like, that's awesome. Let me try it. And tried it out. And it works, right? But you don't know if you don't try it. And
yeah,
you always got to ask yourself, like, what's the best thing that happened? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? And what's the likely outcome? And usually the best thing is you get the business. The worst thing is you don't get the business, which will be the case if you don't try it anyway. And the likely outcome is you got like a 50-50 shot, right? So if you're doing those sort of things and testing, but you have to be confident enough to even do this, because some of these things that you say to people are like, it makes you a little uncomfortable, right? But then you do it once or twice and then it starts to feel better. And that's what real estate really is having difficult conversations with people to help them make logical decisions.
Yeah, that's an excellent way to put it. Talk to us a little bit about the cadence of your week, like your Monday through Friday. Are you working any weekends, or what does your schedule look like?
So as a team leader, it's a little different now, to be super clear. I mean, it's very different, but I was in production up until about like April or May of last year. So let me give you the before.
Yeah, perfect.
And when I made the commitment to lead generate for listings on a daily basis, I got my nights and weekends back. So let me be very clear on this. There was a point where it was 2012. I just had my son. My wife's working. She was a nurse, so she's like working on the weekends. So there'd be like weekends where I have him. I'm trying to like deal with like business. Like I'm having people cover buyer showings for me. And it was myself and one assistant, and it was way too much. And that's when we decided to really like scale our team and realize that we couldn't service everyone properly. So I had to, in order to do that and keep the same income, you can't just like pass off the sales, right? That doesn't work. You got to do something and have a plan. So even though I was prospecting for listings for about 4 or 5 years at that point, I made the commitment, hey, I'm not going to work with buyers anymore. And that's a hard thing to do for a lot of people. It's scary. You're looking at your income and saying, well, I don't know if I can do this. So by almost going like cold turkey and just making the decision. That's how it had to go. Because of life circumstances. And look, my dad's a realtor. I've lived through it as a kid. So and they didn't have like electronic signatures or any of this stuff that we have now. So very different times. I made the commitment. I had no choice, right? It's like burning the boats with Cortez. Like he got here, burned the boats, never going back. But I had to show up every day. When a lot of agents, I mean, most agents don't get to the office at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, right? They show up like 12, 10:30, right? I mean, they don't have that daily schedule, and that's where a lot of them fall short. And that's why they're running around with buyers and doing business by default instead of by design. So it had to be that day to day. And once I made that commitment, unless it was the guy that's in town because his dad died or something, or hey, this is the only time my ex-wife is willing to meet with you because we're divorced and we hate each other, and there's going to be a mediator there, and it's Saturday at 2. Like, those are the kind of appointments you bend the rules for because there's motivation or there's something going on there, or a condition, if you will.
Yeah.
But if you put everything in your schedule, you put everything in your CRM, you treat everyone like a client, and you follow that schedule and do it every day, you're going to be able to get time back. You're going to work way more efficiently than a lot of other people.
Yeah. When you talk about burning the boats with and not working buyers anymore, I think that's an easy boat to burn. I mean, buyers take much time.
Yes.
You have to write the contract. If it doesn't work, you have to write another. Then you have to write another. And then you have to write another. I mean, they do all of the hard work in the transaction. It's like 5 times the amount of labor. And if you go out of town and you're a listing agent and you come back, you've sold 4 or 5 homes. Try that with buyers. I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's a happy boat to burn.
Well, and that's how we train our team members too. And I think that's one of the disconnects with a lot of the teams in the industry right now is they don't take the listing training seriously enough with their people. And we really believe in transfer of skills here because you mentioned having to run around and things are out of your control, right? Think about the current market climate right now. But if you're training people on how to list, and I'm trying to transfer my skills and showing them, here's how we did it, here's the results you can expect. And you have just all you need is one listing lead pillar. Like expired listings work for me. I mean, I want to be you don't need like 10 of them. You got to be an expert at one. And that's what I did. I became a specialist at expired listings. If you do that, and then you work your sphere, which you guys mentioned at the beginning of the show, and that everyone should do that because that's the easiest lead pillar to work. And then you have some sort of, internet lead play, whatever that might be. That's all you need to do. I mean, and obviously there's going to be other lead pillars that help, but 3 lead pillars will give you a sustainable business, whether you're on a team, you're, like a husband and wife team, you're a single agent, whatever it is, listing lead pillar, some sort of online presence, because that's where all the eyeballs are, and work your sphere. That's the formula. It's not that hard.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Love it.
So kind of back to your schedule, you've got, before you were able to jump out of the production role, you're doing your calls in the morning. What time are you generally getting up? What's your sort of energy plan? How are you keeping all the plates spinning?
So a buddy of mine, Byron Lazine, he's in Connecticut. I met him at a coaching event. And our other pal, Scott Comp, these are all guys that have Scott was an expired guy. They've all had the same kind of plan. And we started doing this thing called the 5 a.m. call. It's on the East Coast. So it's 5amcall.com. And it's a 5-minute accountability call. And it started like a couple of us on the phone. And these calls are horrible. It's like, hey guys, you up? What's going on? Then we said something at a coaching event, and then everyone's like, I want to get in on this. And we're like, well, maybe we got something here. And so now we run the call. We got about 2,000 realtors up and down the East Coast to jump on. And it's not really about the message on the call. It's a 5-minute motivational call, which is great. For a lot of people, it gets them pumped up. But for me, it's the accountability of having to be on there. And then what happens after that? Because it's great to be up, but one, you got to stay up, right? You can't just go back to bed after it. Which we had Byron on our radio show today. That was one of the questions that came up. But then after that, it's you talk about prepping call sheets or prepping your day or prepping your business. That's the next hour. It's like that airplane time before airplanes had Wi-Fi where you can get a lot of stuff done. And then from there, I'm doing some sort of physical activity. I'm working out 6-7 days a week. And then all that happens and it's 7 o'clock, right? Most people are still sleeping. So I've already prepped my day and I've worked out. Right. And you talk about mindset, Ran. I mean, that's movement's gonna go a long way for you. It's gonna feel a hell of a lot better.
It does, yeah.
Then my kids wake up and that's where everything goes bananas. Because it's I mean, they're still all single digits, they're all in elementary school. One of them's not even in kindergarten yet. So there's all that situation going on. So it's real easy to fall into that as a dad and a working dad, or we had 2 working parents for a while in our household. So that it gets a little crazy then, right? And that's where a lot of people are like, oh, I can't deal with it or whatever. You got to get up before them if you want to have that strong morning routine. Then they got to get them out the door, go to school, right? That's a whole situation. Any parent out there knows what I'm talking about. And once you get through that, you got to get to the office and execute. So that's why the prep is so important. Because I don't have that extra time in the morning. Once I became a dad, that wasn't an option. And I think that's where people fall short. And what's as important is the nighttime routine, right? Like going to bed at a reasonable hour. You don't see any high achievers staying up to like 1 a.m. during the week, right? I mean, you never hear this. Stay off screens. Don't work out within 3 hours of trying to go to bed. Like all these hacks that are out there, you've got to have the right nighttime routine so you can have a strong morning routine. Otherwise, you're going to be dead exhausted and not be able to execute when you go on appointments and make calls.
So how much sleep do you try to get every night? If you're up at 5, what time are you guys?
I'm usually getting like 7 hours of sleep, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so 450 units and 7 hours of sleep. Nicely done.
Well, we've got a team. I mean, the team makes it all go. So, I mean, there's no way one person can handle all that. But you get the point, though. I mean, but everyone's got the same 24 hours. This isn't anything that everyone's equalized here. It's just, are you using it efficiently?
Mm-hmm. No, that's very helpful. If you were getting into the business today and you've been at it for a while now, what would be kind of like the first 3 things you would make sure that you are doing to get your business launched? What's your best advice for a newer agent right now?
So when I got out of college, I was very fortunate to have a mentor. And my dad had mentored him. So there was a relationship there. That wasn't a big thing back in like 2004. Like there wasn't a lot of the organization that we see now. So if I'm a new agent, the first thing I'm doing is I'm interviewing teams in my marketplace because they're going to have all the resources and they're going to be able to get me down the road quick. Meaning while you build up, like you're talking about how long it takes to build these skills and execute listing expireds and all those things. It takes time. It's not a quick thing. You don't see a lot of new agents have success with this, but over time they can, just like anything else that's worth doing. So I'd be interviewing teams in my marketplace to see what kind of training they have, finding out if the leadership's in production or not, because you don't want to be competing with the team leads and you're going to get all the bad leads, right? They're not going to give you the layups or the good stuff. And if they're training you on listings, like those are like all the stuff we're talking about here, they've got to be giving all that to you because that's what a team should do. It should enhance your business. So I'd be interviewing teams, number one. The second thing I'd be doing is I'd be making sure I'm role playing my scripts on a daily basis because it's the only way you're going to get better, especially when you're a new agent. Because it's, you got to work on it's not just knowing what to say. It's how fast are you talking? Are you mirroring and matching?
Are you role playing with somebody else or with yourself?
I think you want to do both at the beginning, right? You want to chant the scripts to get them down and then find a role play partner that's going to push you. Meaning they're not just going through the scripts saying, oh, great job. Here's the appointment rent. Or yeah, great job, Sarah. I'd love to work with you. It's, hey, I've got a concern and here's what it is. And then you're actually going through and practicing.
So you get feedback. They give you feedback and they say, this part was good, but I wasn't convinced on that. Okay. Gotcha.
Absolutely. And so, role play, get the scripts down first and find a role play partner that'll push you. And the third thing I'd be doing is I would be making sure I'm working on building my sphere business because right now, I mean, all these companies are out there and they're trying to take your database away from you. They are attacking your database as we speak, whether they're marketing to them on Super Bowl commercials or Google pay-per-click or whatever else. So I would work on organically building that because that's always going to be your best lead pillar. As long as people know you're a real estate agent, you can't just expect them to come to you. You have to actually make the outreach and do that. So I'd be building my sphere from the beginning, documenting it on social, making the calls, doing the outreach, all the stuff that you can just Google this and I'll tell you what to do. Interviewing teams in the marketplace and working on my skills every day. And you do those 3 things and focusing on outreach attempts, because that's really the one thing you can control, like we talked about, you're going to have a great career, but you got to be ready to do the work. If you're not ready to do the work, I mean, you're going to find a place that has all the resources. You still have to do the input to get the output.
Yeah.
Great advice.
Thanks a lot.
Great advice. This is a great plan. Tom, this is good stuff. This is great stuff. And I know some people are going to want to watch this 4, 5, or 6 times. By the way, if somebody wants to, if they're in the Philadelphia area and they want to put their home on the market, or they want to move to Philadelphia because they've heard about all the wonderful things in Philadelphia, that what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
So you can check out our website. It's tomtoole.com. So it's got an E at the end, TOOLE.com. I mean, we cover the entire Metro Philadelphia area. That's the best way to connect with us.
What else would you like to make sure that that you get communicated in this forum, that you think an agent really needs to hear? Anything else that we haven't asked you that you wish we would have?
I mean, the best thing I can tell people, if you're watching this, one, congratulations, because you decided to invest in yourself and gain some knowledge, which is first and foremost. This year, 2022, it's going to be the tale of two agents. There's going to be two kinds of agents that are out there. The first agent is going to be the ones, and you guys have probably heard this before, they're going to say things like, oh, there's no inventory on the market. I don't have anything to sell my buyers. And it's going to be all victim language. And they're going to be the people that might be out of the business at the end of the year. I mean, realtors have gotten to the highest amount ever. There was a new agent getting licensed every 7 seconds last year. So that's the first agent. Then there's the agent that said, hey, I'm getting back to basics. I'm focusing on contacts. I'm focusing on door knocking, reaching out to these old school lead pillars that still work, like expires, for sale by owners, working my sphere, circle dialing, all the stuff they told you in all the real estate training before the internet blew up and people, and now people want to be like Instagram stars instead of salespeople. So the folks that commit to their skills, that commit to the daily actions every day, they're going to be the ones that win. And it's really that simple. You hear this all the time, but I mean, inventory, it's a competitive market. And
right. But Tom, that, you can be a whiner about anything, because when you started in 2005, was it? 2005?
I was in the business full time in 2004 when I graduated.
2004, you could take a listing, but you couldn't sell it. Now you can't keep it. They go under contract too fast. Oh, darn, it went under contract too fast. So what? It's a wonderful problem.
I agree.
Because if you get the listing, you will sell it. All you have to do is find it. It's actually easier.
I totally agree. I mean,
it's actually easier, but people want to complain about something. So
it's about personal responsibility. It's either you're going to commit to the stuff that nobody wants to do,
right?
Because they don't think it's fun, or they don't want to do it, or it's too hard.
Yeah, but servicing the listing for 5 minutes with it not selling is not a lot of fun either.
I've been through that. I mean, 2008, 2009. I mean, you're carrying 40 listings at a time. That's hard work. You got to call those people every week and tell them, hey, the economy's not great and your home's probably not going to sell, and here's why, and we got to drop your price. And I mean, those are tougher conversations. So
they are.
It's all about, identifying the opportunity, understanding the market, and the same skills in 2008 that work now. It's just a different kind of market. And I agree with you. It was harder then, but it doesn't matter. The best agents are formed during times like these, when the market's really hot or it's really challenging in some way. And the ones that succeed, they're going to have great careers.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Very well said.
Yeah. It's a great time to be in this business. That's for nurture. Great time to be in this business.
Couldn't agree more.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun. A lot of people are going to learn a lot. And I have a feeling somebody's going to play this 4 or 5 times and internalize it.
That's great.
Very cool.
So I appreciate you being here, Tom and Sarah, as always. And we'll
Absolutely, Tom. Thank you so much. Just great information. So that's really fantastic to be able to share that with everybody.
Thanks, Ren. Thanks, Sarah. It's an honor. If you guys want to reach out to me, a great place to connect with me is going to be on Instagram. It's at Tom Toole 3RD, at Tom Toole 3rd. I respond to all the DMs I get. So if you have questions or anything, happy to answer whatever people need.
Tom Toole 3RD on Instagram. Good.
Yep.
Good. Thanks, everybody. We'll see everybody next week.
Thank you, Ren. Have a great week, everybody.